From ancient elephants that had a trunk that acted as a mouth and a nose, to sharks with inverted mouths, here are 11 of the weirdest prehistoric creatures ever. Number 11. Oberbinia. When it comes to rarity, the Oberbinia is considered one of the rarest fossil finds in the world today. This is in part because this ancient sea arthropod was known to only live on the seafloor, as well as only be 5 to 8 centimeters in length. At present, only 20 quality fossils of the creature exist today. But wait, there's more to it than that. This creature is considered one of the oddest creatures to have ever been born. So much so that when the creature's fossil and coinciding examination of what it looked like was first presented at a panel, the audience laughed. This is because it had a nose that dropped down off its head, and it was used to feed a mouth that was backwards. As if that wasn't weird enough, the Oberbinia had 5 eyes on its head and a fin tail. So yeah, a creature that is unlike anything we have now. When examining its body, you'll notice it doesn't have arms or legs, which is why they're believed to have lived primarily on the seafloor, which is backed up by where certain fossils were found in the United Kingdom. It's felt that they would either crawl along the floor looking for particles to eat, or that it would use its fin to slowly move around. The search is on for many to find even more fossils of this creature so that even more research can be done on it. No doubt because scientists want to know not just more about this creature, but how exactly it came to be what it was. Number 10. Platybelladon. Think of what an elephant looks like. Now, what is the most defining feature? Most would say their long trunk, right? The trunk is one of the most important features on the elephant. It acts not only as its nose, but as an arm of sorts which can be used to grab things, move things around, and make calls out to its herd. 10 million years ago, the ancestor of the elephant was walking around with a very different kind of trunk. This was the Platybelladon. The best way to picture them is to imagine if the trunk of an elephant was also a mouth. And I do mean like the length of its trunk was also its mouth. Weird indeed. The characteristic shape of the tusks positioned at the sides of its skull were also very strangely shaped. It was very similar to a shovel. Scientists believe that the shape of the strong and well-built tusks of the Platybelladon was an adaptation related to defense and feeding, including stripping bark, uprooting plants, and defending itself from predators and enemies. Obviously, this is quite different from the elephants we have today, and nobody is really sure how the Platybelladon could evolve in such a way. Number 9. Kaprasukas saharicus. The crocodile as a species has lasted quite a long time. It was one of the animals that existed along with the dinosaurs, and you might think that back then, they had a similar body style to what they do today, and some of them actually did. But some of them very notably did not, like with the Kaprasukas saharicus. One of the things that make a crocodile a dangerous threat is that their bodies are tailored to strike fast and first, and not let go of their prey. However, they aren't really chasers. But for the Kaprasukas saharicus, they didn't have to worry about that, because they actually had long legs, ones that allowed them to chase after prey quite easily. Imagine a croc today with tall, long legs, and then imagine that crocodile in high heels. These creatures lived 100 million years ago, and they were apparently really strong, and it was said that they could not only chase after dinosaurs, but go toe-to-toe with them. That just makes it all the more curious that modern crocs aren't as good at chasing, and instead prefer to ambush their prey. Number 8. Quetzalcoatlus. Quetzalcoatlus might be a mouthful to say, but it's also a mouthful of a prehistoric creature too. This was said to be the largest thing to ever soar the skies of the ancient world. And then when it would come onto the land, it would be massive in height, even bigger than a giraffe. To give you a picture, its standing height was about 10 meters and its wingspan was 11 meters. Usually, the wingspan of birds is much larger than their height, but not this time. And when it walked onto land, it would do so on all fours. Just as odd, it had an incredibly long and pointed beak, yet no teeth. Further adding to its uniqueness, this bird was said to be so mighty that it could go straight into flight without any issue at all. 0 to 100 real quick. We're probably lucky it doesn't exist anymore because this bird would cause problems on the sky and on the land. Number 7. Zefactinus. The Zefactinus was a bony fish that grew to rather impressive sizes in order to stay alive. At their peak, they could reach almost 6 meters in length. For comparison, that's about the size of a great white shark. The Zefactinus were also known for their large, sharp, needle-like teeth. However, despite being able to pierce various kinds of flesh and even rip off scales, Zefactinus were not known to chew their prey. Rather, they would swallow them whole and let the fish just die out in their stomachs. Kind of like how a dog might swallow his treat whole. An odd combination, but one proven by fossils of the strange prehistoric creature, as some Zefactinus were found with bones of fish in their stomachs that were almost complete. Despite many fossils being kept of the creature, there's still so much scientists want to know, including its birth stages. Only minimal samples of them have been found so far. Hey, real quick, if you're new to the channel, welcome. And seriously, thanks for checking us out. If you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 6. Charovipterix. The ancient world had many flying creatures, and some of them you know very well, like the pterosaurs. But another flying creature that existed, and you most likely aren't too familiar with, is the Charovipterix. Not to be mean, but these weird prehistoric creatures were not exactly the most efficiently designed. Their anatomy is actually somewhat of a mystery. It was about a foot long, with 4 appendages which seem to have possessed thin flaps of skin like wings. The 2 forelimbs were very short. The rear limbs were a lot longer. The result is an odd-looking creature that makes one wonder how it got to be that way, and why and how it actually functioned. The belief is that the front 2 legs helped it to jump so it could fly, but in truth, scientists don't know if flying was its thing. Some suspect it was more of a glide. Not surprisingly, the Charovipterix was in a class of its own. Number 5. Metradiacurus. The Metradiacurus is basically a very strange-looking prehistoric warthog. The two are very similar. Imagine a prehistoric Pumbaa, sort of. Its tusks weren't exactly like the tusks we see on warthogs today though. Instead of 2 tusks, the Metradiacurus had 4 enlarged tusks that grew from the upper jaw, extending out to the sides while also curving upwards. Another similar detail with modern warthogs is that they both seem to be omnivores. Scientists learned this from the complicated structure of the fossilized teeth, which would have been suitable for a variety of different foods rather than a specific purpose. In terms of size, it was about 1.5 meters long, which is honestly pretty big for a warthog, and probably why it was named the giant warthog. The Metradiacurus would eventually die out in its native land of Africa, though its descendants were able to live on, albeit with less tusks and size. Number 4. Dunkleosteus. The Dunkleosteus was a prehistoric fish that scientists and paleontologists believe may have had the most powerful bite on the Earth in its time. In fact, some think it had the most powerful bite ever. Research on the fish has made scientists think it had the raw biting power of a T-Rex. Sometimes they are known as the Tyrannosaurus rex of the seas. One of the coolest facts about this ancient fish, however, is just how strong and powerful their bite was. Scientists have done some research and have crunched the numbers and estimate it could have generated up to 8,000 pounds of bite force per square inch on its victims. For comparison, a crocodile has a bite force of around 3,700 pounds a square inch. The Dunkleosteus were the apex predators of their habitat. They were 10 meters in length and weighed 4 tons, making them a massive and ferocious creature and pretty close to the top of the food chain. The Dunkleosteus was also impressively armored from top to bottom with extremely thick skin. Its skin was about 5 centimeters thick, in fact. Dunkleosteus fossils have bite marks that match their own jaws. This suggests they might have even been cannibals. Number 3. Megatherium. When you think of sloths, you're not exactly picturing the most intense or massively powerful of creatures, right? The catch here is that in the Ice Age, sloths had much more active and aggressive tendencies, as well as being absolutely enormous. A great example of this is the Megatherium. These ground sloths could actually grow to be up to 6 meters long, which is longer than most land creatures today, including elephants. Another unique feature these sloths had were tails, which they used to help fend off predators who got a little too close. That's another thing you don't exactly expect sloths to do, fight back. Making them even stranger, the Megatherium also had giant claws, as well as a very thick skin, making it pretty hard to take out. The Megatherium lived primarily in South America, and despite their offensive capabilities, they were herbivores. Scientists also believe these giant sloths were good at swimming, digging, and more. So how did the Megatherium transform into the slow and adorable sloths we have today? Perhaps Mother Nature just decided they didn't need to be so fierce anymore. Considering just how much they've changed, it seems bizarre that they're connected in any way. Number 2. Dinochirus. Have you ever heard of a bird-mimic dinosaur? If not, then prepare to learn about a species known as the Dinochirus. This bird mimic was a dinosaur that looked like a bird and even had feathers all over its body. But it was very long, weighed up to 7 to 10 tons, and walked upright in a way that was similar to many land dinosaurs. The Dinochirus was a mystery for quite some time among researchers and scientists, mainly because there were only partial bones found of the beast. Specifically, they found massive arms that seemed to indicate that they were not the usual feathered creature of the era. The Dinochirus is believed to have been 3 times as long as its cousins, which puts it at about 18 meters long. This was realized after more bones of the creature were found in 2015. The name Dinochirus actually means terrible hand. Its arms were the first bones found, and they were pretty massive at nearly 2.5 meters. It's believed the Dinochirus only ate plants, which makes you wonder why it evolved its big hands and arms like it did. Maybe it wanted to show off. Either way you look at it though, this is one creature who definitely stands out in the ancient world, and it's honestly not that surprising that other birds didn't follow in its proportions. Number 1. Helicoprion. The Helicoprion might just be one of the strangest and unusual sharks to ever be born into this world, and that's saying something given some of the sharks out there. But one look at this prehistoric beast and you'll see why this is. Its mouth. As you can see, the Helicoprion was a shark that had a mouth that went inward, making it resemble a circular saw of sorts. What has made this so special in terms of the shark community is that no other shark in the past or in the present has had this kind of special mouth. Yes, there are saw sharks, but those are ones that have flat noses that act like saws, whereas this one is a buzzsaw of sorts in terms of appearance. The Helicoprion wasn't too big. Its average size was about 4.5 meters, which actually puts it on the small side of shark sizes. However, despite its small size, it was very endurant, as it was one of the 10% of life on Earth to have withstood the Permian-Triassic extinction. But what might be the most ironic thing about this shark is that there is still some debate about what it ate and whether it was as vicious a predator as other shark species, despite its looks. But many still focus on its mouth because it looks like something out of a fantasy or horror novel. And yet we know via fossils that this was indeed how it looked. Yet the question still remains, how did such a mouth eat dinner? Thanks for watching. Which one of these prehistoric creatures do you think is the strangest? Which one are you the most glad is extinct? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye!